The banishment and survival. The judgment had been swift and unanimous. The Galactic Conclave, an assembly of the 23 most advanced spacefaring civilizations, had deemed humanity too dangerous to remain within the collective. Unpredictable, violent, ambitious to a fault, High Arbiter Exiled had declared, his crystalline appendages glittering under the chamber's pale light. The human species represents an unacceptable risk to galactic stability. Commander Elena Reyes stood before them, the last representative of Earth's unified government. Her face remained impassive despite the sentence being pronounced. Banishment, not just for her, but for her entire species. "You fear what you don't understand," she said quietly, her voice carrying through the vast chamber. "And what you fear most about us is not our violence, but our potential." The Arbiter's faceted eyes narrowed. "Your kind advances too quickly, adapts too readily. In the mere century since you joined the galactic community, you've already begun modifying our technologies in ways that violate our most sacred principles." "We call it innovation," Elena replied. "We call it dangerous," countered the Arbiter. "The decision is final. All human settlements within Conclave space will be evacuated. Your people will be provided colony ships and directed to the outer void, beyond the boundaries of charted space." Elena's hands clenched at her sides. "You're sending 8 billion people into uncharted territory with minimal resources. That's not banishment. It's genocide by another name." "It is mercy," the Arbiter insisted. "We could have chosen extinction." 3 standard months later, the last massive colony ship, the ESS Endurance, crossed the boundary into uncharted space. Behind them, a line of Conclave warships ensured there would be no turning back. Aboard the vessel, Elena Reyes stood at the observation deck, watching as the final beacons of known space winked out of existence. "Status report," she demanded into her comm. "Supplies are at 62% of projected requirements," came the grim response from Resources Officer Takeda. "Water recycling is operational, but food production will need to be established within 6 months if we're to avoid rationing." "And the other ships?" "We've maintained contact with 13 of the 17 colony vessels. The others," his voice trailed off. Elena understood. The ships were old, provided by the Conclave as their final mercy. Some had failed before they even reached the boundary. "Any habitable worlds on long-range scans?" "Nothing conclusive yet, Commander." Elena took a deep breath. "Then we keep moving. Inform all captains. We travel as one fleet until we find a system that can support us all." What the Conclave hadn't counted on was humanity's greatest strength, the ability to thrive precisely when the odds were most stacked against them. The first year in the void was brutal. 3 more ships lost, resources stretched to breaking point. But then came the discovery that changed everything. The Helios system, a yellow star with not 1 but 3 potentially habitable planets, rich in resources the scanners couldn't even properly categorize, elements unknown to Conclave science, energy signatures that defied conventional understanding. When the first teams landed on Helios Prime, they found something extraordinary. Ruins of an ancient civilization, far older than any the Conclave had records of. And among those ruins, technology that even the most advanced Conclave species had never imagined. "They didn't exile us," Chief Scientist Maya Chen said, holding up a device that seemed to bend light around it. "They delivered us directly to the greatest discovery in human history." Over the next decade, humanity established colonies across all 3 Helios planets. The ancient technology they uncovered accelerated their development exponentially. Quantum computing beyond anything the Conclave possessed. Energy generation that drew power directly from subspace. Materials that could repair themselves and adapt to different stresses. 20 years after banishment, the first new generation human ships were launched. Faster, more powerful, and incorporating technologies the Conclave would have deemed impossible or heretical. 50 years after banishment, the Terran Confederation was born, uniting the 17 thriving colony worlds that had sprung up across what humans now called the Phoenix Sector. 100 years after banishment, humanity had mapped most of the void, discovering that it wasn't empty at all, but filled with resources and remnants of the precursors, the ancient civilization whose technology they had inherited and improved upon. We should be grateful to the Conclave, Admiral Reyes Chen, granddaughter of both Elena Reyes and Maya Chen, told the Confederation Assembly. Their fear gave us freedom. Their rejection gave us purpose. Had we remained within their restrictive boundaries, we would never have discovered our true potential. 200 years after banishment, the Terran Confederation controlled a region of space larger than the entire Conclave territory. Their ships could cross vast distances in days rather than months. Their citizens enjoyed lifespans triple what they had known on Earth, enhanced by medical nanotechnology derived from precursor artifacts. And then, on the bicentennial of what they now called Liberation Day, the long-range sensors detected a Conclave survey ship cautiously probing the edge of Confederation space. In the command center of Helios Station, now the capital of human civilization, Admiral Jackson Wei watched the alien vessels approach on the holographic display. "They're scanning extensively," his tactical officer reported. "I don't think they know what they're looking at. Our technology signatures must be completely foreign to them." We nodded slowly. 200 years. They probably assumed we died out here in the darkness. "Should we intercept them, sir?" Wei considered for a long moment. "No. Let them look. Let them wonder. Let them return to the Conclave with tales of strange energy signatures and unfamiliar technology." A small smile crossed his face. "Let them fear what waits for them in the dark." Another officer approached, her expression troubled. "Admiral, we've decrypted some of their communications. It seems the Conclave is in turmoil. Some kind of resource war has broken out between the member species." "How convenient," Wei murmured. "They cast us out because they feared our potential for conflict, only to succumb to it themselves." "There's more, sir. They're losing. Badly. A species called the Vex has developed new weaponry and is overwhelming Conclave defenses. Multiple worlds have fallen already." Admiral Wei's eyes narrowed as he studied the information scrolling across his display. The Conclave, the mighty, advanced, enlightened civilization that had deemed humanity too dangerous, was now facing extinction. "Plot a course for Conclave space," he ordered, "and notify the Defense Council. I believe it's time for humanity to return from exile." The return and reckoning. High Arbiter Selnaga, descendant of the very same Exiled Naga who had banished humanity 2 centuries earlier, stood trembling before the holographic display. The Vex Armada had breached the final defensive line around the Conclave homeworld of Celestis. Reports of atrocities on conquered worlds flooded in hourly, entire species being harvested for resources, planets stripped of life. "How much time do we have?" he asked, his crystalline appendages dulled with stress and age. "Hours, perhaps," his military advisor responded grimly. "The evacuation transports can only take a fraction of the population. We must decide, Woe." A lieutenant burst into the chamber. "Arbiter, unknown vessels have appeared at the edge of the system. Vex reinforcements." "No, sir. The configuration is nothing we've ever seen before. Hundreds of ships, some of them larger than our largest dreadnoughts." The main display shifted to show a vast armada of sleek, dark vessels moving with impossible precision. At their center, a massive ship that seemed to bend space around it. "Open a channel," the Arbiter commanded, desperation in his voice. Perhaps these newcomers could be allies against the Vex. The screen flickered, and a human face appeared. The chamber fell silent. The humans, the banished, the forgotten, had returned, and they had changed. The woman on screen had the bearing of command, but her eyes held an almost luminous quality, and subtle patterns shifted beneath her skin. "This is Admiral Ileana Raceway of the Terran Confederation," she announced. "We've detected your conflict with the Vex Collective. We're here to intervene." The Arbiter struggled to find words. You're human. How is this possible? How did you survive the void? A small smile touched Ileana's lips. Survive. We thrive. The void you feared so much was filled with wonders your conclave was too cautious to discover. Her expression hardened. But we can discuss history later. The Vex will reach your homeworld within hours. Do you accept our assistance? Pride warred with survival instinct in the Arbiter's mind. What are your terms? No terms. Not yet. First, we fight. Then we talk. The transmission ended abruptly. Before the Arbiter could respond, reports flooded in from the defensive line. The unknown human ships had engaged the Vex Armada. What followed was unlike any battle the Conclave had ever witnessed. The human vessels moved in ways that defied conventional physics, their weapons tearing through Vex shields that had withstood everything the Conclave could deploy. Where Conclave ships had struggled for days to destroy a single Vex dreadnought, the human vessels dispatched them in minutes. Most astonishing were the smaller craft, fighters piloted by humans whose neural interfaces allowed them to react with impossible speed, outmaneuvering the automated Vex vessels with ease. Within 6 hours, the battle was over. The Vex fleet, which had terrorized the Conclave for years, lay in ruins. Not a single human ship had been destroyed. 3 days later, a delegation from the Terran Confederation stood in the great chamber of the Conclave, the same room where humanity had been judged and banished 2 centuries before. Admiral Raceway faced the assembled representatives of the remaining Conclave species. You feared us because we were different, she began. Because we evolved faster, adapted more readily, questioned your ancient ways. You cast us out, expecting us to perish. Instead, we discovered truths about the universe that your Conclave, for all its age and wisdom, never grasped. She gestured, and a holographic display appeared, showing the vast territory now controlled by humanity, nearly 3 times the size of Conclave space. We call it the Phoenix Sector, named for the mythical bird that rises from its own ashes. In the ruins of ancient civilizations that predated even your oldest members, we found knowledge that transformed us. We are still human, but we have evolved. To demonstrate, she raised her hand, and energy danced between her fingers. Direct neural manipulation of quantum fields, an ability all humans now possessed through their symbiosis with precursor technology. We could have let the Vex destroy you, she continued. Some among our leadership advocated for exactly that. Poetic justice, they called it. But humanity has learned something your Conclave never did. True strength comes from diversity, not from fear of difference. The Arbiter leaned forward. What happens now? Do you intend to conquer us as you conquered the void? Admiral Raceway shook her head. We're offering an alliance. The Vex are wounded but not destroyed. Their main collective lies beyond the reach of both our territories. Together, we stand a better chance than divided. And if we refuse, ask a representative of the Morgian species. Then we leave you to your fate. Riceway said simply. We've proven we can defeat the Vex. Have you? The decision in the end was inevitable. Within a month, the Terran Conclave Alliance was formalized. Human technologists began upgrading Conclave systems. Human physicians shared medical advances that saved species on the brink of extinction due to Vex bioweapons. And human historians shared the records of their exile, ensuring the truth would not be forgotten. 5 years later, Admiral Raceway stood on the observation deck of humanity's newest flagship, the TCS Phoenix, watching as a mixed fleet of human and Conclave vessels prepared for the final assault on the Vex homeworld. Beside her stood her former enemy, now ally, Arbiter Selnaga. If your ancestor could see us now, Ileana mused, standing together as equals. The Arbiter's crystalline form shimmered with emotion. He would be humbled, as I have been. We feared your capacity for violence, never understanding that the same drive that fuels human aggression also fuels your compassion. A lesson hard learned on both sides, Ileana acknowledged. Your people cast us out into the unknown, and in doing so, gave us the greatest gift possible, the freedom to become something new. She turned to face the vast fleet assembled before them. Humanity's sleek, advanced vessels, alongside the more ornate but now upgraded conclave ships. It's fitting, don't you think? The species you banished returning to save you. The children you abandoned returning as teachers. And now we face the future together, the Arbiter said quietly. Ileana nodded, her gaze fixed on the stars beyond. Together, but never forget, the galaxy watches humanity now. We were banished and forgotten. We returned as conquerors and saviors. The Arbiter's voice held a note of caution. And what will humanity become next, I wonder? Admiral Raceway smiled, the subtle patterns beneath her skin glowing slightly brighter. That Arbiter is what the Conclave always feared most about us, the fact that even we don't know the answer to that question. We are always becoming something new. As the fleet jumped to faster-than-light speed, humanity led the way into the unknown, no longer exiles, no longer forgotten, but the architects of a new galactic order built upon the strength they had found in the darkness where they had been expected to perish.